Hello, 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 hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Wherever you're joining me from this evening or this afternoon, this morning, wherever you are, wherever you're joining me from, I want to say hello, hello, hello to you. I hope you've had a great day and I hope you've had a great weekend so far. Thank you so much for joining me today on Market Faith. Absolutely delighted to have you join me today. All right, so please, as always, let's just wait for about a minute or two and invite our friends. Let's get our friends on the phone, invite them. If you're watching this on Instagram, there's a share button there. You can go ahead and share this with your friends and invite them. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can also share. Hit the subscribe button, and I'm sure you'll get value from today's video. And we're really in a series talking about what no one tells you about certain things in business. So today we're talking about what no one tells you about people, about hiring people, about employees, and all those types of things. No one told me, so I wish I had known some of these things before I got into business. And even when I got into business, I wish I had realized the importance of some of the things that I'm going to be sharing with you today. So as we just share and invite our friends to join, let's go ahead and do that. Get our friends, get our families on the phone, our business partners, and let them hear some of the things that we will be talking about today. It will really help them. All right, so please make sure you invite someone and join me today. We're just going to wait for about a minute more and then we'll get right into this. Okay, what no one tells you in business about staffing and about people. Very important. Yep. So please go ahead and invite your friends. Go ahead and talk to someone. Send a message to someone. It's always wonderful when you share these things because somebody can come back and thank you. I remember one of our one of the guys, one of the brothers that is always on this, and he had invited a friend to join the teaching. The person actually said it right there. Typed it in the comments and said, hey, so and so, thank you so much for inviting me. I was really blessed and it was really a blessing. So if this has been a blessing to you, please go ahead and share and invite someone and let them partake of it. All right, and if you hit the subscribe button, if you share and like on YouTube, it helps other entrepreneurs like yourself see this video. All right, so once again, thank you so much for joining me today. Super delighted that you joined me. All right, today we're going to dive right into this and talk about what no one tells you in business about people, what no one tells you in business about employees, about staffing, about hiring people, and all those types of things. And it's very important, right? Because one of the things I realized is that having the right perception and the right understanding about people and how they behave, especially in business, will save you a lot of heartache, right? I think that I had a lot of unnecessary pressure. I had a lot of unnecessary, palpitations. Let me put it that way, because I had certain expectations from people, and those expectations were not necessarily realized. And so what had happened was that as an entrepreneur, right, coupled with the fact that I was dealing with how to sort out clients and all those types of things, I was also dealing with the emotional torture that came, or that I gave myself, because if I had known better, I would have behaved better, that I had given myself when it comes to people, right? In fact, one of the high points for me, when I say high points, it was really a low point for me in business, was when I had hired this guy. He was the best paid staff within the organization at the time. Fantastic guy, great guy. He understood what he was doing, so he saved me a lot of work and a lot of things that I needed to do. And all of a sudden, he received his salary at the end of a particular month, and the following day he just refused to show up at work, right? He had left his laptop in the office, he had left all his tools in the office, and he refused to pick his calls, he refused to show up in the office. Listen, this particular guy, till today, he hasn't spoken to me. This was what, maybe 9 years ago, 8 years ago, right? till today, he has never spoken to me since he left then. I think it was in the month of March, right? So it'll make it well over 9 years or so, right? And you know the interesting thing, right? Because I saved his number, and for a long time it was quiet. And then after some time, I just started seeing some things, activity on his WhatsApp and things like that, right? Meaning that, the guy is still there, the guy is doing well, he got married recently, all those types of things. But he just hasn't had that conversation with me. All right, so it was really traumatizing for me at the time, because this was me, just started a consulting business. I had a client, my biggest project at the time, and this guy was my best staff at the time. And it just went kaput, right? And we had a fantastic, what I thought was a great relationship, because we used to talk. There was absolutely no sign to me at the time that he was going to be leaving, not to mention that he was going to leave the way he left, right? There was absolutely nothing like that. If I had known, at least by now I can confess that, maybe I saw some signs, and nothing, absolutely nothing. He just went kaput, right? And he just literally just disappeared. So having the right perception is important, right? So the way this session is going to go is that I'm just going to mention points that I have learned, and please just identify the things that relate to you, and if you can relate, please put it in the comment section. Let me know what you can relate with. All right, so that we can connect, and we can all be a part of this together. So the first thing I learned, right, that nobody told me getting into business and starting a business, was the fact that everyone is essentially interested in what benefits them, right? Everyone is essentially just interested in what benefits them. Now, I used to think that this was a bad thing, until one day it dawned on me that, listen, dear entrepreneur, you yourself are interested essentially in the things that benefit you. And that is the reality. Okay, so don't hate on people for being interested in having a better life. Don't hate on people for being interested in wanting something better for their lives. No, don't hate on them. I used to hate on people because I felt like they were insensitive. They did not care about the business, or were trying to do something very important here, and all those types of things. But guess what? The question is this: it's important to who? All right, is it important to you, or is it important to them? Right? So everyone is interested in what benefits them, even you, the entrepreneur. So don't be surprised if people ask for better terms, because I used to wonder, why would you just wake up and ask for an increment in your salary? Right? Do I look like I'm making more money? Am I buying a new car? What's going on here? Right? But that's your reality. Only God knows what you're doing with the money. The guy will ask, the lady will ask if they can get an increment in their pay. Okay, so in fact, what I've now come to do is that instead of thinking that people will not do something, I have now come to expect it. In other words, listen, somebody can, and you know how these things go, right? I've seen this over the years to see how this thing goes. When someone says, sir, I want to see you, there's a good chance that what they want to tell you is that is either they want to leave, or they want an increase in salary, or they just want to tell you something that will not make you uncomfortable, for a period of time, right? I've come to expect it. So right now, right, in the businesses that I run, I will not necessarily be surprised if people come and meet me and say, look, I'm leaving next month, or I'm leaving immediately. It will hurt. I wish they gave me more time and all those types of things, but I've come to realize that, look, at the end of the day, everybody has to make a decision based on what benefits them. So don't hate on people for making a decision based on what benefits them, right? The only thing is, we ask that people are sensitive, and we ask that people don't just drop ship, right, in the middle of the game, the way that guy ditched me, essentially. I felt like someone in a relationship and I was just being ditched. All right, so that's the first thing I realized. The second thing is this: anyone who resigns your organization most likely left months ago. It's not in all cases, right? And the reason I say so is because, right, whenever you are beginning to get a sense that somebody looks uncomfortable and somebody doesn't look like they would normally look, or they don't approach their work the way they would usually approach it, right, just start preparing your mind somewhere that it may not happen and it may also happen, right? When I was much younger, I used to have this philosophy. I later realized that maybe it was not the best philosophy, but it helped me at the time. And it was never expect so you don't get disappointed. In other words, manage your expectation so that you reduce the impact on you when it comes to the disappointment, right? So I learned that when people resign, their letter is just a manifestation of a decision that they probably taken months ago. So whenever you are beginning to see things, right, just begin to understand that, listen, this guy, right? And then always ask yourself the question. This is also something else that helps me. Always ask yourself the question: if this guy leaves right now, what is the worst case scenario? What will happen and what am I going to do, right? And one of the things I've learned to do is to always be recruiting. When I say always be recruiting, what that means is this: I'm not always hiring people, but in my mind, I'm always thinking that if this person decides to jump ship today, what is my plan B? What will I do? I'm not expecting them to drop a resignation letter. I'm not expecting them to say that they are leaving. But if they decide to say that they are, what am I going to do as a stopgap? What am I going to do in the long term, right? So I've planned that in my mind, right? Because I know a lot of these things about the mind. I've planned it in my mind already so that if it eventually happens, right, I'm not overly surprised, right? I mean, in some cases, you probably can never prepare enough, because in some instances, you probably still will be surprised. Number 3 thing I want to say to you: good people or smart people are always looking for better opportunities and rewards. Let me say this to you: they are not getting any younger. So they realize that this smartness that I have, the earlier I take advantage of this smart mind that I have, the better for me. I'll give you an example. I remember those days, one of the businesses that we started, we carry out KYC on behalf of organizations. So we needed to develop a technology solution to help us manage that process a lot better. Now, there was this guy that we had, fantastic developer, just graduated out of school. I can't remember how much we were paying him at the time, but we were paying him a lot, because compared to somebody that just left school who just finished NYSC, we were paying him quite much, right? And if you don't know what NYSC is like a 1-year national compulsory service that you do in our country, in Nigeria, after you've left school. Okay, so this guy was paid significantly higher there, and all those types of things. And listen, I was expecting that he would stay with us for the long haul, because we had invested in him. At least we thought we had, and we had done all of that. And then one day he came and said he was leaving. I was heartbroken. I was shattered. I was like, my goodness, who's going to build this solution? Listen, this guy was so good. Let me tell you how good this guy was. We had a developer before this guy, right? And the developer we had built the solution, but it was extremely complex. It did not work very well. When this guy left and this new developer came, who was much younger, young graduate from school, right? By the time he couldn't work with that other guy's application, so he had to build from scratch. Listen, what he built from scratch was so good, right? Years after he left, we were still using the solution, even with another developer. You must understand what I'm saying. The way most developers work is this: whenever a developer has worked on something, if you're in software, you know, whenever a developer has built something, any new developer coming there will most likely start from the scratch. Our guy, the guy we brought after this guy, was able to take up from where he left off, right? So this guy was so good. He built that new solution. That first guy, it took him months to build the solution. This guy, it took him weeks, literally 2 or 3 weeks. The solution was up and running. So I mean, this guy was very good. He was very good, and he said something to me. He says, sir, I am a very good developer, and if I don't enter an environment where I see other developers and I get better, I will become obsolete very soon, and even you, I will not be able to add value to you. Listen, when he said that to me, let me tell you something. The truth is this: then when he said it, I didn't understand, because my emotions had taken the best of me. In other words, and listen, entrepreneur, let me tell you something. You can get into situations where your emotions override your logic and your reasoning. It was years later that I thought about what he said, and I said that guy made the smartest move he could have made. Listen, it was painful, it was hurtful, but eventually I realized today the guy is a world-class developer. He works with fintechs, he does things. Listen, he is good. So listen, good people will always find better opportunities. right? Listen, in my consulting firm, I remember hiring some people, etc. Some of the people I've hired, right, have gone on to work with some of the big four consulting firms in the world. Some of them have gone on to working internationally. Some of the people that have learned, consulting with me, right, and have worked with me, right, have been poached by bigger organizations. I am prideful of that now because before it was hurtful, before it was painful. But you know what I realized? That listen, maybe I was a stepping stone for someone, and the same way someone else was a stepping stone for me. So I realized that good people will always look. So whenever you have somebody in your organization and this guy is very good, right? Start planning their exit before it starts. You know why? See, let's I'm just trying to save you heartache, okay? Start planning their exit before it starts, because let me tell you why. The reason is this. And this is one of the points I was going to say, right? When a good person wants to leave, don't be quick to convince them to stay. The reality is this: you will start something you cannot finish. If in your business you don't have capacity to pay somebody more than $1,000 a month, the person now decides to leave because they found an offer for $3,000. You should be the first person to encourage them to go, because you cannot match $3,000. You can't. Maybe if you improve it, maybe you improve it to $1,500, $1,500, but you can't do the $3,000 that other people are giving this guy. So you need to accept that, and instead of trying to convince them to stay immediately, try to think about what you can do, right, so that you can manage the transition. Because let me tell you something: if it doesn't happen today, it will happen tomorrow. If it doesn't happen, and listen, celebrate the privilege that you had of that very good staff when you have them. So somebody says, so sir, are you saying that we should just resign and raise our hands that good people will go? I'm not saying so. In some instances, let me tell you something there. The reality is that there are some good people that if they see a future with what they are doing, right? And listen, as I'm saying this, a lot of things are just coming in my head, so please forgive me if I jump from here to there. If good people see a future in what you're doing, the chances that they will stay, or at least they will support you, is significant. And let me say this to you, if you run a small business, one of the questions you must ask yourself is this: before you get angry that people are leaving you, ask yourself, what is the future for my business? If I were not the owner of this business and I was employed into this business, will I stay? If the answer is no, expect that no one will stay. It's just being real and being realistic about your expectations, because when you are unrealistic, right, you're going to get disappointed significantly. So don't be quick to convince them to stay. I have a friend that, he tried to keep some of his good people, bought them cars, gave them great salaries, etc. But you know what? Most of them still left. They stayed for maybe 1 or 2 more years, but eventually they still left. Now, you will find some people that you can even offer them partnership in your organization and say, listen, become a partner here. You are that good, right? But how many people can you offer partnership? So when I started my career fully, right, where I used to work, in fact, I believe that it is part of the strategy of the organization for people to leave. Why? It's like a pyramid structure, right? So a lot of people come in at the base level, right, and as they rise, some people leave. Some people will never find their future in your organization, no matter what you do. I'm telling you things that I had to come to terms with, so that I can have peace and joy, so that I can live my life with joy. All right? I've seen people where people travel, right, and while the boss is away on vacation, his people have resigned. Yeah, happens. In that case, he can't even come back and continue the work. Do you understand what I'm saying? He has to wait till his ticket. Some people have to buy a new ticket to travel so that they can attend to their clients. All right. So I hope this has been helpful. Listen, if it's helpful for you, put it in the chat box. Let us know and put it in the comment section. Okay. So the next thing I want to say is, I don't even know what number I am. All right. Whatever the number is, all right, just take it there. All right. The next thing is this: most good people have ambitions bigger than where you are part-time. It's not a bad thing. Try to convince them a bit to stay a bit longer if you can, right? Offer something more if you can, but don't break the bank. Why? You have an organization to run, not a person to please. I'll say that again. Listen, this is a tweetable quote. You have an organization to run, not a person to please. When somebody behaves like as if they are the alpha and the omega in your organization, remember you have an organization to run, not a person to please. I've said that because, and I'm saying that because sometimes you may need to keep some people who are good, right? However, you plan to phase them out over time, and you must. So no one talent is worth everything. Listen to me and listen good. There is no matter how good the person is, no one talent is worth everything. You cannot sacrifice everything you have in your business on the altar of just one talent. Why? No matter how talented you are, you cannot clap with one hand. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. No matter how talented a person is, you cannot clap with one hand. There are certain things that takes a team to deliver it, not a genius. A genius that is not working with a good team will become ungenius. So no one talent is worth everything. A good team is better than one talent. A solid team is better than one talent. Because I always ask the question, what if that talent dies and you have sacrificed everything for that talent? What if something happens and the person is incapacitated, God forbid? You have put all your eggs in one basket. And even though you are watching the basket, it does not mean that the basket cannot still fall. Are we together? After all, a lot of people that have accidents, their eyes were wide open when they had the accident. All right. So the last thing I want to say to you is this: people will go with you as far as you are in a direction that they are also going in life, and as far as their bus stop has not yet been reached. When they reach their bus stop in life with you, they will come down at their bus stop. Entrepreneurship is like a bus driver. You keep driving. Some people will say you're a good driver, some people will say you're a bad driver. Some people will get down at their bus stop, some people will get in where those ones have gotten down. Your job as an entrepreneur is to make sure that bus gets to its destination, no matter the distractions that you find along the way, right? Why am I saying this, right? Because if you don't have this right perspective, you will give up before your time. You will give up before your breakthrough. So please do not sacrifice anything. In fact, the best kind of talent that I have seen, right? I believe, and if you're a Christian, you understand the concept of Jesus and his disciples. I believe that one of the reasons why the disciples stayed was because there was something in them that resonated with the ministry of Jesus at the time. There is a reason why Jesus picked 12. He did not pick 100. Because I believe that these were the people who had something in them already that resonated with the calling of Jesus. And so what that did for them was that at the end of the day, right, they could carry on that thing because they had it in them as well. Why am I saying this to you? As an entrepreneur, the best types of people to consider making partners, to consider making long-term people that you do business with over the long term, are people who also find their calling and their purpose within what you are also doing. If you can find those types of people, do what you can to keep them. But when you find people who are all over the place, right, it will be very difficult for you to keep those types of people, because they don't even share your dream, they don't share your vision, they have no desire, right, so to speak, to achieve the things that you have in mind. So don't be discouraged. Don't feel like as if people, some people have come to scam you. Everybody is looking out for their interests. What you need to do is to plan like somebody who knows that, listen, this person may get up one day and leave. It's not the end of my business. It's not the end of my world. And this is what I will do if such a thing should ever happen. Hey, I hope that has been helpful for you today. Thank you so much, all right, for joining me today on Market Faith. I really hope it's been helpful for you. Please, if you're joining us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, hit the like button, all right, so that other entrepreneurs like you can see this video, all right. If you are on Instagram, you're joining us live for the very first time, please go ahead and wave at us. Let us know that you're joining us for the first time, all right. We want you to know we appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining. Where have you been, all right? We're hitting the like button for you. Thank you so much, all right, for doing that. All right, next week we're going to close up on this series and we're going to teach and just try to finalize this and talking about, hey, what are the things that I wish I had known before I had started business? God bless you. I'll see you next time.